Hi, it's Ayo here. Can you spare a few minutes just to fill in a quick survey for me about this show? It's basically going to help me to produce better episodes for you in 2025. Get your entry in by November the 10th and I will enter you into a special draw to win a strategy session with me. Link in the show notes to head to the survey or head to abbasmarketing.com/survey to complete it there too. Bye. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Built Environment Marketing Show, hosted by me, Ayo Abbas. This is a very special bonus episode as it's a UK government budget special. What I've done is taken the live that I did last week over on LinkedIn with Shirin Iqbal and Stacey Meadwell. I've taken out the predictions as the budget has already happened, and instead what I focused on is the next steps. So the things that you could be doing as a built environment firm to make the most of the budget and the government agenda. This is a really practical episode with lots of tips and ideas on what you could be doing next. Enjoy. Welcome to the October edition of the B2B Comms Breakdown Live. I am Ayo Abbas, which says insert proper intro here. I am a marketing consultant, a speaker trainer, and all-round kind of content creator. And I work for myself, and I work with architects and engineers. Over to you, Stacey.
Hello, I'm Stacey Meadwell. I'm a former property journalist turned content creator, content strategist. I also do a bit of media training and moderating as well, but I work with businesses in the built environment sector.
And we have a special guest today, which is Shirin. Shirin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Shirin Iqbal. I'm a freelance comms specialist in the built environment. I've got over 15 years experience in built environment comms, both agency side and in-house. And I work with businesses to help them tell their story, reach their audiences, and position them to win work.
Okay, so first up, I start to talk about the channels that are available for built environment firms who want to share their knowledge and expertise. I think it's huge. I think in some ways you've got to kind of understand what things you care about and where you can add to the conversation. But I think that, in terms of what you can do, if you like, for example, it's understanding, I guess, which areas of the story and the pie that are, which you want to focus on, and then thinking, right, who is talking about these issues? So you've got publications. So, for example, the AJ over the past few years has very much been about retrofit, not knocking buildings down. So you've got people like that who are championing those causes. So who's championing those issues? So some of the magazines might be doing things, some of the associations. You've got people like campaigning groups like the London Society looking at, toilets and infrastructure or things like that. So you've got to just look at who is talking about these issues and these debates. And as well, there's also things like, the government expert panels. So they've put together that panel, for example, the New Homes Accelerator. Who's on those panels? Who's involved in that? How can you join that conversation? And there's also kind of non-government groups. So things like Business First, which used to be London First when I was at Mace. But they're kind of campaigning organisations, the associations like the RTPI, for example, for all the planning reforms, they're involved in that. So there's lots and lots of ways that you can kind of meet people who are talking about these issues, who are actually going to be the people advising government, which is ideally what you want to be in front, and how you can join the conversation. And you've also got consultations as well, where the government are actually going out and saying, can you tell us what you think? So I think that's a huge kind of opportunity as well, where you can join these conversations. Do you want to go on, Shirin?
No, I'd completely agree with everything that you've said. And I think just to add to it, obviously thought leadership articles in trade press, panels, conferences, podcasts such as this, really adding your voice, but not just to add to the noise, but to add value to the conversation and really showcase your expertise.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I second it all. I think it's key, and I think this kind of follows through. This kind of follows through into the final question. But I think key is about offering solutions, and because it's very easy to get around a table and everybody to talk about where all the problems are, but where the real value is being the person who can actually come up with ideas, not just, not solutions, but also how to move things forward and how to, to get past the problems. But you've got to be around the table. If you're not around the table, you're not part of that conversation.
And I was also going to say things locally as well. So if you the local development plans, for example, looking at your council, what are their priorities? What are the MPs saying for those areas? So I think there's also that kind of local element to it as well. So looking at that, looking at the government quangos like the DFT, what are they pushing out? What are Homes England pushing out? And actually just understanding, I guess, where those conversations are being had and who's saying what. So I think there's a huge mapping exercise to kind of understand. We're really interested in housing, right? Who is talking about housing, and really going deep into that. And then you start kind of figuring out, I guess, onto our next question, which is about how do you actually find your message? And also, how can you develop your messaging, your thought leadership and B2B content to capitalise on what you found in question 2? So who wants to answer that one first? Is that you, Stacey?
I can go first. I can go first if you like. I know we've all got lots to say about this. I won't kind of talk about all the different channels. Sharon's already mentioned a few of them. There are a lot of opportunities, but there are 2 things that I want to focus on. I think taking a platform like LinkedIn and positioning yourself as a thought leader, as an expert on the particular topic. If you've done as Ayo suggested and narrowed it down to kind of what is important, where you can offer the best expertise and knowledge, position yourself as a thought leader in that area. And you can do that obviously through thought leadership on your blog, but on your website. But LinkedIn is a great place for doing that, not just for publishing and talking about key things and sharing your expertise, but starting a conversation, get a conversation going with your industry, with your peers around the stuff that you are talking about. Join other conversations. I think it's important not just to be a broadcast in this. If there are other people that are saying interesting stuff, join that conversation. Be part of that conversation, and that gets you seen by different people. It puts you on different radars. This person is making some interesting points. I might go and then check out what they've got to say. You can position yourself where your feed on LinkedIn becomes the place to be to talk about particular topics. And from that, you can then get picked up by journalists. Journalists are monitoring social media feeds. They're looking on LinkedIn for people who are experts, for people who know what they're talking about, who are talking about interesting things, that are articulating it in an interesting way. And they will start coming to you. If you're seen as, if you've positioned yourself, you're very visible, talking about particular things, they will come to you for comment. They will come to you for interviews. It makes it easier if you've got thought leadership. If you've been very visible about talking about a particular topic and you want to kind of pitch in thought leadership to publications, it makes the job a lot easier if you've already done that work on a social channel like LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that, because I've got a number of clients who have got noticed through LinkedIn and journalists are now coming to them. But also it's worth thinking about, what are you going to say on LinkedIn in your area of expertise after the budget? So, for example, we all know that the trade press and some of the nationals after the budget, they will have articles which are basically a lot of chief executives of companies saying, we welcome the government's budget announcement, and kind of not saying anything particularly interesting. Whereas LinkedIn gives you the opportunity, perhaps, you're either a less well-known organization, or maybe you're slightly lower down the pecking order at your company, but you've got something of interest and of value to say. Put it on your LinkedIn. It gives you an opportunity to write a bit more, not too much, because people aren't going to be reading essays necessarily, but you can put it on there. You can get, as Stacey says, a bit of a conversation going potentially with other people, and that's a way to get yourself noticed. And then you're having a more nuanced conversation than just quite a bland comment in building.
Hi, it's Ayo here. Just wanted to hop on and let you know about 3 new services I've just introduced for you. The first is a 1-hour strategy review where I will look at your marketing plans for next year and give you some ideas and approaches on how you can really make them work. The second one is actually a LinkedIn Power Up training session where I will take you and your firm through LinkedIn and how you can get the most out of this amazing platform to grow your business in 2025. And finally, it's an audit and recommendations where I will look at your current marketing activity and give you some recommendations and a roadmap of what you should be doing in 2025. To find out more, there's a link in the show notes to my end of year services. Take care. Bye. One of the things about the budget is actually you get what's presented, don't you, in Parliament, but then there's the full document that sits behind it, and that gives you the detail. So actually, if you as a team download that, which can be a lot, but then go through the sections that are relevant to you and then write off the back of that, then that is a much more thorough, in-depth, knowledgeable piece to actually be sharing. And I think people that actually do that kind of thing, that's a huge opportunity. Because then you really can come. But I mean, you need to turn it around in like a day. So you need to kind of have it, like, go for it and do it and block out time to do that timely. But that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Just picking up on your point, Ayo, and Sharon's point, speed is of the essence in these things, unless you're doing, there's probably you've probably got a little bit more wriggle room if you're doing something more in-depth and analytical. But the conversation moves on very, very quickly. Back when I was a journalist, generally we'd have all the comments, the responses lined up. Some of them would all be written and pretty much, let's just change a word here, change a word there, because there's always leaks about what's coming in. People can anticipate. If you've got your finger on the pulse, you can generally, you've got a bit of an inkling about what is going to come through in the budget. There's always going to be surprises, but usually all that stuff is set up. They will have the go-to people. They will have, all of that will be drafted, ready, and all it just needs is a tweak. If you've got an approvals process that takes 3 or 4 days to get something signed off, don't bother. Just don't bother, because you're going to have missed the boat, because things will have moved on. And it's the same. It's not just the budget. It's the same with all those big announcements. People will pour all over it, and then a day later, it's all, and I think coming back to your point, Sharon, about actually having something different to say is really important. We used to get so many emails with people offering comments post-budget, and they were all pretty much bland, said pretty much the same thing. You're looking for, you're either too late or you're looking for something different, someone who's got a different perspective or is saying something in a non-bland corporate way that's got a bit of personality to it. It's got a bit of life and energy to it. And it's, you're saying something interesting in an interesting way. That's a bit behind the scenes of what it's like. But normally all that stuff's all wrapped up and tied up before they, it's even happened.
In terms of kind of messaging, so I think once you've figured out, like, this is what I want to do and what I want to say and the sectors and parts of the market I care about, I think the other thing is, like, looking at the kind of campaigns, and you don't have to, tap into someone else's campaign. You can create something. I was at an event earlier this week, and Canny Ash was talking about a campaign that she's been doing which she launched in January, was around profitable neighbourhoods. So it's about, neighbourhooghoods, creating communities and neighbourhoods, but they need to be profitable for the firm developing it, but also for the people who live in it. So they've got to enjoy it. It's got to be that right space. It's got to have those community areas and all of that kind of stuff. So it's like, that's a campaign she's developed herself, and the narrative. And you think, that's really nice. So, and she's taking that out to market. And I think, especially with the things around housing, housing's a huge opportunity. And I just think, how are we going to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years when we've never, ever hit our 300,000 target ever, have we? So this is suddenly, like, in 5 years, we're suddenly able to do it.
There's the optimism.
Oh, that's my optimism, that. But I think it's like, but that's an interesting campaign. Here's 5 solutions. How about how we can get this going? That could be really interesting. And you could take that out to people. And that's the kind of stuff that we need, those solutions, actually, we've set these huge targets. This is what I think's gone wrong before, but actually this is how we can improve it. And like you say, solutions, like you said, rather than doom and gloom.
Completely, because we all know, I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world for a minister to say no, because you've come up with something which is in cloud cuckoo land. What the important thing is to not whinge, but be solutions focused, but achievable solutions aligned to the government agenda. So saying these are the steps that you can take to get to what you want to deliver, minister. That's what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're busy people. They want the path. They want they want it to be easy. They've got a lot on their plate. So if you can come up, I mean, nothing's easy, but if you can come up with something that is very clear, then it offered it, you're pushing it an open door. I mean, I was just going to add, you were talking about an event you were at, I was in an event and talking about easy solutions for the housing delivery. And someone on the panel was talking about all the number of homes that are empty and not in use. And it's something like 700,000 homes in the UK that are empty and are either not habitable, or just not being lived in. And actually, there's a huge chunk of homes there that actually, if you could bring those, so that could be a campaign. It might not necessarily about building new. If that's your area of expertise, if that's something you've got a lot of thoughts on, that's another. It's another area. It's thinking about these other, not just the obvious ones. There are lots of opportunities. There's lots of different things you can drill down, as you said, Ayo, into different areas.
Because we were having this chat, weren't we, the other day on text message, when we literally there going, we were talking about, we need to build more social housing rather than affordable, because affordable, what is affordable? It's affordable. And that is that thing, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I start drilling down to these definitions and you're like, actually, are we building the right housing that we're actually going to need? And you're kind of there. And then you've also got the kind of, shouldn't we be retrofitting our homes rather than building 1.5 million new, which isn't as glamorous, but, I mean, there's like so many different ways you can kind of look at stuff. And I think, and add to the conversation and debate, which are interesting topics. So I think, it's housing, but yeah, you can talk about it in so many different ways. And depending on, I guess, where you're coming at the problem, really. It's
interesting. And the clients are looking for, how do we get into government? But I think from what, just listening to what the two of you are saying just now, there's not one silver bullet that's going to deliver the housing. And I know that we're focusing on housing here. It's going to be made up of a lot of different ways of getting the housing. So it might be retrofitting a lot of housing so that they can come back into use. It might be saying, okay, actually, alliancing of house builders is a way of getting new towns built over here. And it's looking for a number of solutions. There's not going to be just one solution. So the government is going to need a lot of experts to come together and put forward solutions and be, frankly, working together to come up with the answers for the good of the country, as it were. But then that will help them. But that will help business as well, because then they'll all get a piece of the pie.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. And especially like modern methods of construction as well, and all of that kind of stuff. Those are the solutions that we are going to need, because we've got skills gaps, we've got materials gaps, there's so much stuff that you're there going, actually, to hit 1.5 mil, or if we want to start delivering large infrastructure projects, this is, we're going to have to work together more and collaborate more. So I think actually how we go to market and how we actually come up with solutions should be a collaboration as well. So I think that's actually really, really important, because otherwise we're not going to hit any of this stuff. So yeah.
No.
If we are not connected, make sure you connect with all of us on LinkedIn. So I'm Ayo Abbas, she's Stacey Meadwell, and we have Shi Meadwell as well. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Great conversation.
Thanks so much for listening to the Built Environment Marketing Show. Don't forget to check out the show notes, which will have useful links and resources connected to this episode. You can find that on abbasmarketing.com. And of course, if you like the show, please do share it with others on social, as it helps more people to find us. See you soon.